This is DWBS Sports. DWBS Sports, it's your favorite show. DWBS Sports, where degenerates go. DWBS Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Halterman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DWBS Sports Show. Show 3 on the channel today. We still have one more to go with the Magic Mike Show as well. So a lot going on, as normal, on a Thursday. Papa Dude, how are we doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Ready to roll with this one. Hopefully we can hit some winners on this one.
Yes.
See what happens.
That would be good if we hit some winners. If you watch the Daily Show, Somich's horse did get home as a winner. Magic goes 1 for 2 in the daily double, but he did get the first leg of it. He was alive to a 6-1 shot as far as what the daily double was paying, but could do no better than, I don't know, 5th or 6th. I think the horse didn't do much running. So
yeah, it's hard to hit those daily. You know, those daily doubles are hard to hit. They really
are hard to hit, but they do pay well.
Yeah.
Kind of a lesson to start the show. If you're bad in racing, you can make big money. Well, not big money, but solid money. Betting heavy favorites in doubles. So Magic played a horse in the first leg of the double that was 1-5. He played it into a next horse that was 2-1, and it was paying 6-1 for the daily double. So he did the job of creating value very, very well. That's what you want to do, but it didn't come in. That's the problem.
Right. Anytime you got a 1-5 horse and you can make 6-1 on anything, that's pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's I always tell people, look at the exacta will pays, look at the double will pays. That's how you can kind of create some value on a heavy favorite. And the heavy favorite came through, but not the other horse, unfortunately. Right. All right. Let's do it. Let's do NFL. Let's get to it. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the NFL. I'll put it up on the screen now for us. We're talking about those 4 games. Then we're going to go to the listener mailbag. I've got a couple of questions from listeners that have been sent in. If you're listening and you want to ask any question,
anything,
yes, you can do it after we do these NFL games. Now, if you have questions about the NFL games, go ahead and ask them. But if you want to know anything else other than that, into the show, probably the last 20, 30 minutes of the show, that's what we're going to do. So,
yeah, and you're talking to 2 highly educated people here.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Who know a lot about a lot of things. So
any subject, yeah. Maybe we'll bring Dr. Tang on and you can ask him medical questions as well.
I would love to ask some of those. That would be great.
I'm halfway through my first coffee, too, so I'm feeling good for this.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Needed it after blinkers off. All right, let's go. Let's go to the NFL here. We'll start Saturday. We'll start the 3:30 game, the first game. Jaguars and the Chiefs. Chiefs 8.5-point favorites here. They played in the regular season. Chiefs handled them pretty easily. Jaguars seem lucky to be here. Can they keep the luck going? What do you think of this first one?
I think they drew the worst draw they could have drawn. Don't you? I have tried to figure out a way how they can win. They can't if the Chiefs play well. The Chiefs are just better. And when you start breaking down statistics, and I know statistics are for losers, you know, there's just not much you can bank your hopes on for the Jags. Because here's the thing. The Chiefs aren't the Chargers. And they better not get behind 27-0 against the Chiefs because you ain't coming back on them. It's not happening. I just don't think the Jags are good enough to beat the Chiefs. Do you?
No, I don't. And I don't think they shouldn't really cover either. I think the Chiefs should get it done pretty easily. I think Jacksonville's chances to control the ball with their running game, and they do run the ball pretty well. Maybe they could keep it away from the Chiefs enough to keep it close. I just look at the Jacksonville team and say, okay, you were on your home field against a Tennessee team 2 weeks ago that didn't have a quarterback.
Right.
It's a miracle for you to win that game, right?
Yep.
You did win. And then last week, you're down 27-0 at home against a Chargers team. It took a miracle for you to come back and win.
Yep.
They're lucky to be here. They've had a really good season, big turnaround season. I think it ends. I'm going Chiefs minus 8.5.
Yeah, I never take the Chiefs to cover, but I think you got to in this one. And I don't want to knock what they've done, what the Jaguars have done. That's an incredible turnaround. I don't care who you are. But I'm trying to find here real quick who they beat. Let's kind of look. Okay, they beat the Colts. Let's see, did they beat them twice? No, they lost to them once. Colts are horrible. It's kind of ironic. They beat the Chargers twice. They beat them in the regular season, and they beat them. They beat Vegas. They beat Baltimore. That's a good win. They beat Tennessee twice. Mm-hmm. They beat Dallas. They beat the Jets, and they beat the Texans.
So they got bad, really.
Huh?
That's not that bad.
No, they've got a good win over Dallas, and they got 2 wins over the Chargers, and a good one against Baltimore. So there are some good wins sprinkled in there. They have won 6 in a row. They've won 7 out of 8, 8 out of 10. There's a lot of pro teams that would take that. That is a very impressive thing to do, to win that many games like that. So they're on a roll. Lawrence is capable of getting hot. We saw that. He's also capable of playing bad. Here's the key when you look at any game. Who has Mahomes? The Chiefs do. Who has Travis Kelce? The Chiefs do. Who has a huge home field advantage? The Chiefs do. Why is this game first of the 4?
It almost feels like, let's get this one out of the way.
Absolutely what I was going to say.
Yeah.
They drew the 3:30 Saturday time slot.
Yeah. This almost feels similar to when you see a late pick 5 sequence at a horse track. It's like, where's the major stakes? Well, they put it at race 3 because there's going to be a 1-9 shot, and they wanted that out of the late pick 5. You know, kind of that's a Saratoga move. You'll see a lot. Short field, like when Nest was running, it's like, put that race early, and then we'll go with the more competitive races later. That kind of feels like this one as well to me. Jaguars, they're interesting. They find a way at times to play people closer than what you would think, including Kansas City. They got beat 27-17 the first time they came to Kansas City. They got way behind, and they did come back, and at least I think they covered that day. I think they were like 13-point underdogs or 10. So I think they covered. But anyway, doesn't matter. They're not going to cover here. I don't think they're going to win here. That's where it's at for me.
I think they were heavy underdogs because they were like 3-6 when they played the Chiefs the first time. So I don't think it'll be much of a game. The Chiefs should win easy. Do you give anything to the Chiefs not playing last week? Sometimes you have a bye, you don't come back and play real well that first game. I don't think that's going to be the case with the Chiefs.
I don't think it'll be the case with Kansas City. I do know what you're saying, though. Sometimes that does happen. I think with an experienced team like the Chiefs, it probably won't for them. But I get it. I mean, maybe they come out slow to start, and maybe
they could overlook them.
Yeah,
they could overlook them, and they may always say, "Oh, we got this one," and be focused on next week because that one won't be so easy. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Next week's going to be a battle no matter who they play. We'll get to that in a second. All right, let's go to the Saturday night game. I think this is going to be a really good football game. The Giants and the Eagles. You know, the Eagles have taken care of them a couple times. Giants are playing really, really well coming into this game. The Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite here at home against the Giants. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm a huge Eagles fan because of Jalen Hurts, and I really want him to win. I think that line might be just a tad high. I could see the Eagles being very nervous coming into this game. Can you?
It's a big spot for a team that's not used to being in that kind of spot. Yeah.
Right, and the Giants have got a game under their belts, so this is where this bye comes in to me. The Giants have nothing to lose, plus they played through the pressure last week on the road. They know they can go on the road and win. They run the ball well, and that you got to have that to pull off an upset of a heavy favorite. You got to be able to run the ball and control the clock. They can do that. They got a hot quarterback who's playing very, very well, while the Eagles sat around getting nervous. They lost 2 out of their last 3 games. Yes, Jalen was hurt, but still they lost. They got some of that momentum snapped. This is a scary situation, I think, for the Eagles.
I think it is too. I'm a little bit. I'm conflicted about what to do with this game. I've got pretty strong opinions in the other three that we're going to talk about. One we just did, two that we're going to talk about here in a second. I don't know what to do with this one. I've got a ton of respect for the Giants, and I think the Giants can pull a little bit of an upset here. However, they did beat the Giants twice in the regular season, and when they had Jalen Hurts, the Giants looked really, really helpless against them. And I just feel like if we get the Eagles' best shot, they're probably going to beat them.
Oh, I think so.
I should say cover in this spot, but go ahead.
Yeah. When you break down the stats and you look at some things, there's a couple of things that stand out. The Giants have no standout receivers. They don't have anybody that stands out, that has good statistics. I think the whole thing with the Giants rests on the shoulders of Daniel Jones. And he was great last week, and he's been playing well. He's going to have to make some yards with his feet too. And I think he's the key for the Giants. When you look at their stats, okay, they've averaged scoring 22 a game. They've averaged giving up 22 a game. They've passed for 188 a game. That's pretty low. They've given up 215 a game. They've rushed for 150 a game. They've given up 145 a game. They look like a 500 team when you look at the statistics, which they kind of are. Then you look at what the weapons Hurts has besides himself. I mean, Hurts has thrown for 3,701 yards and rushed for 760. You know, he's responsible for a ton of 35 touchdowns, this guy. He's thrown for 22 and ran for 13. He has a great running back in Sanders. He's got tremendous receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They have the much better players.
Yeah.
If they play their game, they'll cover this. I really believe that.
You know, Curtis says, hey, Eagles, young team, banged up quarterback. They did look awful in playoffs last year, but I think last year we kind of figured they were a little bit outclassed, where this year they look like the class as far as the NFC goes. I'm with you. I'm going to go Eagles minus at 7.5. This is probably one I'm staying away from as far as actually putting a bet on, though, but my pick is going to be Eagles.
Yeah.
If it was 9.5 even, I would think about the Giants a little harder.
Yeah. Well, they were awful in the playoffs last year, but they barely got in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
were good.
Yeah.
I think at one point they were 2-6 and they were trading all their players.
Yeah.
And then he got to rolling. This team has played extremely well all year long. And, you know, they just aren't tested in the playoffs. But I think he's pretty healthy. I don't think he's banged up. He's had time to heal.
Yeah, I think they played it safe with him. Hopefully they did. Hopefully he's okay.
They didn't run him. They didn't run him in that last game hardly.
No. I want to talk about Daniel Jones for a second before we go on. I know I scrolled up on the screen here, but there was one other thing I want to talk about. Okay, what do you do with him long-term if you're the Giants? Because I would venture to say there have been games where he kind of looks like the Daniel Jones that we've kind of known. But there's also been games like last week against the Vikings. I watched Daniel Jones. It's like, this guy is a good quarterback. He made plays in that game. I guess it's a lot's going to depend on what happens in this game, win, lose. What are they going to do the rest of the way? But has he kind of shown that, hey, with good coaching like they've gotten, he's an actual legit NFL quarterback and somebody to take serious?
I think so. What they did in the offseason was they improved the offensive line. The other big key is with him, Barkley's been hurt his first couple of years in the league, and he made it through the season pretty good this year. He's a huge key for them. They need to go out and get a receiver or two. If he had the receivers Hurts has, I think he is developing into a guy. I don't think you give up on him if you're the Giants. I don't know what you're going to get to better.
That's the thing. this league is pretty short on quarterbacks.
It is.
And I didn't think I would say this. The more I watch him, you might be okay with him. You really might. And I really like how he's been able to run the football this year. You do not think of him as a scrambling quarterback until you watch him, right?
I got to tell you, I didn't know he ran the ball as much as he does until Somich picked him in one of the best bets I think it was last week, to go over 40 yards rushing. And when I first heard him say that, what the hell are you talking about? And then I started looking it up. He has run the ball for a lot of yards.
He's a weapon in that offense running the ball. And like I said, Jalen Hurts, we all know he can run it for good reason. He's fantastic. But Daniel Jones has done a very, very good job. And Dennis, I don't think I'm ready to call him like a Big Ben type of guy, but he definitely has made strides, and that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens.
Well, looking here, they've still got a ways to go with him and their offensive line because he was sacked 47 times this year. So they still got a ways to go. But they made a commitment to him in the offseason to build around him. And that tells you they're pretty sold on him. Mm-hmm. That they think, he's their guy. And he sure looks like it at the moment. They had a great year. They really have.
We'll see if they can keep it going. We'll see what happens here and see if we can kind of keep him on the right track, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but he definitely, it's nice. Listen, people love to pile on quarterbacks, how bad they are and this and that, and he's been piled on a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it's nice when it goes the other way for him.
I
don't care if I hate the guy or love the guy. It's nice that they actually play some good games, get people off their back for a couple weeks at least. So,
and he plays in that New York bubble too. So,
Yep. And Curtis says, hey, if you get the pieces around him, you can win with him. And that's what he's shown. And there's not everybody you could say that about. I'm confident Curtis is right about that.
I am too. Yeah. And he had some very good stats at Duke in a similar situation where he didn't have good players around him.
Yeah, it's two ways to look at it. You're at Duke, and it's like, whatever. But he didn't have good players around him.
No, and they won some games and went to bowl games. So.
Yep. For sure. And and as Curtis pointed out there, he was coached by Cutcliffe.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Sunday. To me, this is the game. I don't know. Both these games are going to be pretty good, actually. But this is one of the two here. The Bengals and the Bills. We're in Buffalo. The Bills are a 5.5-point favorite in this game. It's going to be a good one. This is a classic game, in my opinion. Who do you like between the Bills and the Bengals?
It's going to be, like you said, a really good dogfight, I think. There's not a whole lot to choose between these two teams. It just depends on who you like the best at quarterback. And that's up to your opinion. They're both as good as they get. I mean, they're top. They're top 5.
Yeah.
Nobody can argue that, right? In the league.
Yeah.
You might say they're top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And you add Mahomes. And I don't think you'd have a lot of people argue with that either. So this is really going to be good. I'm going with the Bengals because I just think they know how to win this time of the year. And I don't think they played well last week, and that worries me a little bit. But Buffalo didn't either. And I've not liked the way Buffalo has played down the stretch. A lot of people are agreeing. I don't like the way the Bengals played last week, but I'm going to give them a pass because they had to turn around and play the same team they had played the week before.
Yep.
And Baltimore is one of those teams that seems to play you tough. They just do. They are a tough-minded team. They got enough talent that they can stick with you, and if you don't play very well, they can beat you, and that's what happened. I think they're going to play much better this week, and I think the Bills will too. I think they're getting a break. 33 degrees is not bad for Buffalo. That wouldn't bother Cincinnati either. They play in cold weather. I like the Bengals. There's not a whole lot to choose from. When you look at statistics, it's pretty even all the way around for these two teams. It's just going to come down to who makes that last play. I think this one will come down to the wire.
I do too, and that's why I'm taking the Bengals plus the 5.5 for sure. and I am taking the Bengals straight up. I'm going to bet them on the money line, and I'm 100% with Curtis. Joe Burrow, man, when his back's against the wall, I've got faith in him, and he showed it. He shows he can win on the road. They went to Kansas City and won last year. They went everywhere and won in the playoff run last year.
Well,
what am I talking about? So
yeah, and Buffalo is banged up in the secondary, and that's going to hurt because Jamar Chase, I don't think gets enough credit. This guy is pretty solid, and T. Higgins is fine. And watch out for Mixon coming out of that backfield. He's another weapon. They use him a lot coming out of the backfield. That guy can catch the ball, and he's dangerous in the open field. So they've got a lot of weapons. They're kind of underrated on defense. They seem to get the job done when they have to.
So Curtis said division opponents playing for the third time always creates a level of variance, and that's the thing. And I give both the Bills and the Bengals a little bit of a pass.
True.
Yes, I know the Dolphins were shorthanded like crazy, but still, division opponent, you get up ahead of them, you kind of fall asleep thinking this is easy, and you don't factor in that there's another team over there that's going to fight back, So, and then with the Ravens and the Bengals, and really anytime the Ravens play anybody, that's kind of the game, right? That's kind of what happens.
You just don't know.
Yeah. Dennis talked about the crowd going to play a big factor. I don't think there's any doubt they will. This is the thing. The NFL got it right with the Bills and the Chiefs, I think. If that happens, it's going to be on a neutral field. This should be on a neutral field as well.
Yeah.
The Bengals,
you're right.
Kind of got screwed in this whole deal.
They did.
They could have easily beat the Bills, and then this game would be in Cincinnati. So,
yeah, that is something that's not being discussed enough either, I don't think.
Yeah.
Do you?
No.
This game should have been played somewhere else.
Yeah, they got the raw end of the deal.
They did.
Yeah.
That's right, because if they won that game, this game would be in Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. And
not only that, Aaron, unless I'm mistaken, let's say wait a minute, it would have been on a neutral field if they won and they were in second place.
Yeah.
The Chiefs game would have been on a neutral field. Right?
Well, no, then it would be the Chiefs were the legit number 1, and the Bengals were 2, and the Bills were 3. If that game would have been played and the Bengals won.
So they would have had to go to Kansas City no matter what.
Yeah.
See, that's not right either, is it?
No, that is 100% right. Yes. You're confusing yourself.
Yeah, it's terribly wrong.
That's correct. That's how it would have been.
Yeah. So
listen, the bottom line is they're good enough to go win this game. No matter where it's at, they are good enough to win.
They beat Kansas City in Kansas City last year. Buffalo's no wilder than Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. They can go to Buffalo and win this game if they're good enough and they play good enough. I think they're both of them. I think they'll do both of those things. I think they're good enough to beat them, and I think they'll play good. You kind of mentioned some of their weapons. The Bills have those weapons too, for sure. But listen, the Bills haven't stopped anybody lately.
No,
and the Bills, I know it was just 2 possessions. They looked clueless in the game when they matched up for a quarter and a half the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm taking
they don't have an outstanding running back either.
The Bills, no.
He's okay. I mean, he's not bad.
A lot of their running game goes through the quarterback.
That's right.
That's right. I think Josh Allen's going to be the key to the game, honestly, because he has been so hit and miss.
He has. And, he's thrown 16 interceptions.
Yep.
He's been sacked 40 times. Burrows has been sacked 45 times.
Yeah.
These guys have got to be beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
The difference is Burrows don't run the ball like Allen does.
Correct. Now, who did you actually pick? I never heard.
I'm going Bengals plus 5.5, and I'm like you. I think they're going to win.
Okay, I think you said it. I just missed it. So, all right. So we're both on the Bengals plus the points there, plus the 5.5. All right, final game. I think this one's pretty tricky.
Yep.
And I guess that's the trend. Both these NFC games, I've said this about now. Cowboys on the road here to take on the 49ers. Cowboys big road win last week. 49ers look good against Seattle, no doubt about it. 49ers like 4-point favorite here against the boys. All right. You like?
This is the one I'm staying away from. I'm just staying away from it because here's the deal. We can't trust Dallas, can we? I mean, after last week, you want to, because they went in there and they manhandled Tampa like they should have. They did what they should have done. So you want to think they can come into San Francisco against a rookie quarterback and do the same thing. But can you trust them? That's just the deal. And I think the 49ers are much better coached than Tampa. I think anytime the quarterback's the head coach, you have a problem. And I'm not knocking Brady, but I do think Brady's a better coach than who they have as their. I just think there was all kinds of problems in Tampa.
Yeah.
And that's unfair to Todd Bowles to knock him like that, because I don't think he had enough respect to handle the whole deal. Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So Shanahan's perfectly in control in San Francisco. Purdy has been amazing. We've documented that a million times. He played really, really well last week against Seattle. Dallas is better. This is the best team he's played against. When you look at the statistics, he hasn't had to do a whole lot because the rest of the team is so dang good. Can Dallas stop McCaffrey? That's a big key. Can they do it? They have a three-headed monster at receiver. San Francisco does. I mean, those guys are good. All three of them. Their defense is really, really good. Will their defense be able to frustrate Prescott into screwing up? I think that's the key, don't you?
I think that is the big key. Yeah, and that's what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. Yeah, a couple of good comments before I give my pick here. Curtis says, if you are a DVOA guy, I don't even know what that is, Dallas is 31st in variance, which means basically they are the most inconsistent team in the league. I can believe that.
Yeah.
He also says he does not trust Dak and McCarthy in big games. So that's another one. How can you argue that one?
Okay.
Dennis says, hey, here's where the wheels come off, and it doesn't look pretty.
Like it.
Played the Bucks, Seahawks twice, Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals. Look at those teams. They don't have the pass rush ability that the Cowboys do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We pointed that out last week, Dennis, that he's not really played a real good team.
Yeah. So this is definitely going to be a test.
It is. But, God, he's looked good. He looks like he's been in the league forever. He really has. But he hasn't had to do a whole lot. And they are really good everywhere. San Francisco is. They are solid. Their defense is so tough. We have seen Prescott play like crap.
Oh, yeah.
And this could happen. They could get in his face and get in his lunch, and he could get frustrated. Do you think the Cowboys have enough at receiver if San Francisco can shut down CD?
No, I don't.
Who's their secondary guy besides the tight end who's really good?
Yeah.
Do you trust Pollard at running back? I think he's pretty good.
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I think they're solid there. Last year they had Cooper that would help CD out a little bit. There's no doubt CeeDee Lamb he's fantastic. He's great.
Yeah.
But can the 49ers take him out of the game? If they do, I think Dallas is in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Is McCaffrey good enough to carry them? Because I think they're going to ask him to do a lot.
I thought that in this game last week, and they didn't really ask him. But there's going to be a time, and this is going to happen, where the quarterback is going to need to make big plays at big moments when they have to have it.
Yep.
And that's when I think it's all going to fall apart.
It might. Let's also say this. What if Dallas gets ahead? What if they get the first possession, they go down and score?
They're in
And
trouble.
then they get a 3 and out.
Mm-hmm.
And they go score again, and suddenly you're down 14-0. Now, I'm not saying that happens, but what if it does? That's when you need the experienced quarterback.
Mm-hmm. That's the key. That's what I keep saying. It's going to happen eventually to the 49ers, and I think they'll crack.
Yeah.
I don't think Dallas will show up and do it to them, though. I think the 49ers get it done.
I like them a lot. I should have researched this a lot and go back and look at the games that he started and see if they've ever been behind, like at halftime. I don't think they have. Just thinking about it, I don't think they have.
I haven't went back and looked. It seems like they've jumped ahead of almost.
That's what I'm thinking too. I don't remember the Niners being behind in any of these games down the stretch.
I'm trying to look at this. I know they weren't against Arizona. They were not against. They may have.
Well, you know what? Wasn't Seattle ahead at the half last week?
Yeah,
I think it was 17-16.
Okay, they were behind, but we're talking about in a hole, right?
Yeah.
Like they came out,
Right.
they jumped on top of them.
Right.
Yeah, Seattle was ahead. Okay, Seattle was ahead in that game. Did anybody really think Seattle was going to win that game at the half?
No.
Though? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about behind and in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think they have been.
No, I don't think they have been. Let me look at this Raiders game. They may have fallen behind big here. They were down like 10-7 early. That
doesn't count.
No, yeah, right here. Third quarter against the Raiders. They were behind 24-14.
Okay, so he pulled them through that.
And they got a drive right after and scored. And then they stopped them and they went down and kicked a field goal. And then, they kind of pulled away from them. Yeah,
okay.
So the Raiders game would be one where you could cite, hey,
right.
They did get behind. Now, it was the Raiders, but
still those on the road.
Yeah. So maybe you can't make the case that you're making there,
Well, we'll all agree it's going to be a fantastic story if this guy can get them to the Super Bowl. Can you just imagine? What if the Chiefs get in, or really anybody, Chiefs, Bengals, or Bills?
Yeah.
You got those quarterbacks up
or
against
Jacksonville.
Huh?
Or Jacksonville. No.
Oh, that'd be a dog, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That'd be a disappointment. Well, no, that would be a great story.
It would be a good story.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think that's going to happen, but the 49ers can definitely win the NFC because there's no dominant team in the NFC. There just isn't.
No.
And,
all right.
And Mike Somich has said the same thing. He thinks Dallas is the best team in the NFC, and I think probably talent-wise they probably are. But I don't know whether they can win the game.
Professor here says the Raiders not really a road game, more red in that stadium. That's probably true. But still,
you're probably absolutely right on that.
You're behind 10 points NFL. You came back. I mean, it is what it
all
is.
I know is every time I've seen him play, which isn't a whole lot, he's played very, very well. It looks like he's played in the NFL his whole life. That's what gets me.
Yeah.
He's amazing. It's been amazing. For those of us that watched him all those years in the Big 12. He had his moments. But he also made some very bad plays that killed him at certain times.
We'll see if that continues in the NFL. Eventually, it might.
Listen, you're going Niners -4.
I am going Niners -4. Where are you going?
I'm saying I don't have any faith in Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I do think McCarthy's a good coach. A lot of people don't, but I think he's pretty good.
I don't think he's good. He's a good in-game coach.
No, maybe not. But he gets his teams. He wins a hell of a lot of football games in the NFL.
They usually feel like when they start the game, they are prepared and ready to play. It's just as the game goes on, it can go the other way on him pretty quickly. Let's put it that way. I don't think he's great in game, but we'll see. Dennis is going boys money line.
All right. That's what gambling's all about. I think there's a lot of coaches right now we can say are having some struggles in game. Do you think down the road we're going to see, instead of a defensive coordinator, I mean, you're going to have a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator. Are we now going to have an in-game coordinator? Is that going to be our next?
Honestly, I would eliminate like 4 or 5 of these stupid coaches, you know, and I would make one coach the in-game coordinator. Yes, because that is needed. It's bad. It is bad.
Yeah, we've seen it
every game. Something's happening, and it's like these are sometimes it's experienced coach, and they like a McCarthy or like a Harbaugh, and they just I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for the NFL. Now we're going to go on and we're going to do our next segment, which is just an open forum. I've got a couple of listener questions from emails that we've gotten in the past.
Okay.
But if you have other questions, go ahead and shoot them in the chat now, and we will answer those as well. Kind of close out the show here with the mailbag part of the segment, so to speak.
All right.
Curtis asked a good question, and he didn't mean it for this, but I think it is a good one. We'll start with this. Says, talking about Brock Purdy, the guy's super experienced in college, which helps. Purdy playing this well, does it hurt Campbell's reputation as a head coach at Iowa State? Because Curtis, like us, seemingly has watched Brock Purdy play a lot at Iowa State, and he was bad. And I'm not going to argue that. A lot of people will show us the stats and say, look, he did this and he did this. If you watch the games, this guy was bad. And I don't want any debate on it. He was not good at Iowa State. So to this question, what does this mean for Campbell's reputation as a head coach?
All I'm going to say is Iowa State is a horrible place to coach.
Yeah.
And try to win year after year. Let me repeat. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Iowa State is a great place.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to say.
But it's a bad place to coach football because you are banging your head against the wall there.
It is. Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. I have a lot of admiration for Iowa State and the way they support their teams. And I think Campbell, he must love it there. And there's probably very little pressure on him, although he built that up to where now they expect to win and go to bowl games. And if you look at the history of Iowa State football, that's never happened, not consistently. He should have got out of there because now they're going to start getting on him.
Yeah.
So does it hurt his reputation as a head coach? I don't think so. I think what's going to hurt his reputation is if they go 5-7 again next year and 4-8 the next.
Here's the thing you got to pause about, Curtis, because I definitely get your point.
I do too.
But Brock Purdy's the best quarterback that Iowa State's ever had.
Absolutely.
And that tells you what the problem is. They can't get consistently, I should say.
No.
They can't consistently get good enough players to compete at that level year after year after year. You look back at Dan McCarty. He was he's one of the greatest coaches in college football when they had Seneca Wallace, and they had a couple years there where they were really, really good. He should have left. He stayed, and he eventually got fired. And it's not because he forgot a coach. It's because he couldn't get the talent year in and year out to go to Iowa State.
No.
But yeah, David Shaw's another one. Year in and year out, you can't get the talent at Stanford to compete at that level. But you can get lucky or just do a really, really good job and get some guys and it works out. You have a few years, get the hell out of there at that point, right?
I think what happened to him is he hasn't had that elite quarterback the last few years.
How are you supposed to get an elite quarterback every year at Stanford?
That's right.
Or Iowa State for that matter.
Right.
Yeah.
If you watched Iowa State this year, they didn't have much, but they were still damn hard to beat.
Well, here's the deal. If Brock Purdy was at Iowa State this year,
they would have
probably would have been about 8-4.
They would have.
Because as much as we're like, it's Brock Purdy, he was terrible at Iowa State, he is much better than what they had this year.
Yeah. I would think, because at one time, Matt Campbell could have went anywhere probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think he loves it up there. I think he's he's a football coach and he likes coaching football. And it's
I
a great place to live.
Mhm. I had never been to Ames, Iowa until this year. We went and watched OU play up there with our buddy Paul. And I get why people want to stay. It's a great place. Ames is a really cool town. The facilities at Iowa State are really cool. They're good. Guys, I mean, they weren't very good this year. That place was packed. I mean,
it always is.
I really liked what I saw at Iowa State, but the reality of it is it's really hard to get players year in and year out there.
Well, and here's the other thing at Iowa State. Who's the best team in the state? It's Iowa.
Yeah.
And they're not that good.
Mm-mm.
But they have more appeal than Iowa State does,
Mm-hmm.
and they win more games. And that's tough to go up against too. Now, with the Big 12 changing like it is, we'll see what happens at Iowa State. I'm saying they're going to stay right where they are. Yeah. They're just traditionally a 5, 6, 7 win team. You win. I've got a friend here in town that's I was from that area, and he's a furnace and air guy, and he came over to fix the furnace one day, and we were sitting and talking, and we were talking about Iowa State, and he goes, well, here's the expectations at Iowa State. He goes, if we go to a bowl game, we've had a great year.
Yeah.
Okay, when that's your expectations, man, it's tough to win at a place like that. They're realistic, though. Their fans are realistic. They are.
No, they are. And I spent time
with a taste of winning. And now, I don't know.
That's the problem. The fans are realistic, but then when you have 3 or 4 years where you're a little bit better than the expectations, then the expectation rises. Okay, you went 5-7 this year. Well, that's all right. Rebuilding year. You do it again. Well, this guy doesn't know how to coach all this.
That's right. And that's what happens, and that's why it's so hard to coach.
And that's exactly what happened to Dan McCarty. They got a couple years there in the top 10, and they had I think Sage Rosenfels was another quarterback he had success with up there. He had him and Seneca Wallace back to back. And then they dropped off the face of the map because you can't get those guys every year at Iowa State. So we'll see. Yeah, Campbell could have maybe got the Nebraska job. I don't know, but that would have been smart for him. Let's see. We'll do this one real quick. Speaking of the Big 12, what do you think about Spencer Sanders going to Ole Miss to be the third-string quarterback? Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State and would have been Oklahoma State's quarterback for sure this coming season. Said he goes to Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on that one?
This is strange.
It is strange.
There's a ton of players that left Oklahoma State this year. Big time players.
A mass exodus out of Oklahoma State. Yeah.
This guy holds all the records, I believe. I think he's broken all the quarterback records.
Yeah. By the way, we've got a wicked 6-horse photo for the win at Gulfstream right now. But anyway.
So why would you enter the portal when you're the number one quarterback in Oklahoma State history? And there's been a ton of good quarterbacks at Oklahoma State here recently, for sure.
That's number one was odd. And number two, why are you going to Ole Miss?
There's a lot of places.
Out the current quarterbacks at Ole Miss.
I don't know. There's a lot of places he could have gone and started. He's pretty good when he's healthy. He's kind of a flake, but so many players leaving Oklahoma State, something's going on up there. Yeah. And they fell apart this year down the stretch. They got off to a great start. This is true. I read that, Curtis. He wanted to go back to Oklahoma State after getting into the portal, but Gundy told him he wasn't welcome back.
Yeah. That's
old school coaching that I admire Gundy for that, but you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, Gundy probably thought, get out of here. I've done all I can for you or something like that. And then you shun me, and then he wants to come back. But I don't know what happened there. We don't know. I know he got into a mess with the offensive coordinator, didn't he? Didn't they have a scuffle on the sidelines or shouting?
Yeah, I think he's had some problems with multiple coaches there.
Yeah. So, and he is a strange dude.
Yeah.
And so is Gundy, but
Yeah.
but this guy is kind of strange. So
yeah,
it's weird. It's a really weird situation.
it's weird. We'll see what happens. He could not stay healthy either at Oklahoma State. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
He'd get going and then he'd get hurt, and that would be that. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there. That's interesting.
Good questions.
Yeah. We did have one, Dennis. I see yours up there. I'll get to that one in a second for sure. We did have one email come in that wanted to get to. This was talking about gambling. So a gambling aspect of this to kind of start here. Home advantage in gambling when you're gambling on sports. What sport do you think home advantage really plays a big factor in?
Great question.
And then what sport do you think, the home advantage, it isn't that big of a deal, and I shouldn't take that into my handicapping as much? So for you, what sport do you think home advantage really makes a huge difference?
Easy. College basketball.
I agree. Yeah.
College basketball, I don't know how a road team ever wins in a building that's packed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good team.
Yep.
They're right on top of you. They don't have anybody going around saying, you can't say that. You can't say that.
Right.
They say whatever they want. And it's I don't know how those teams win. You take a Kansas and how they win on the road so much when they're hated. I mean, they're hated in the Big 12. Of course, they're good.
Yeah.
But, man, it takes a lot of guts to go win on the road anywhere. So I think that's the number one place for sure. Mm-hmm. I think football would be next.
College specifically?
Yeah. I think college football is pretty tough to go in there. So you better be pretty good.
Yeah.
So you go into Tuscaloosa and you win there, you've done something.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I think college basketball is the right answer, and I think college football is second. I think in college it makes a big difference. In the pros, I'm not quite sure it makes that much of a difference.
No, not as much, because you're talking about pro athletes. These guys have been through everything. It doesn't bother them as much. Mm-hmm. It's still an advantage.
Now,
go ahead. I see what Dennis is saying here, and I kind of think you're right on the NBA.
Yeah, I still think the NBA home court does matter.
It does in
some regards. When you're basketball, shooters can be very fickle, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some courts, some stadiums, some guys may not like to shoot as well as when they're at home. And maybe you just don't come out with that same kind of energy because you're on the road. And so I don't think it makes a huge difference comparatively to like college basketball, but I do think the NBA, out of all the professional sports, maybe not from a crowd standpoint, but from
I think it makes a huge difference in the playoffs. More of a difference in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because Dennis is right. In the regular season, there's so many regular season games.
I want to get to this one too. Curtis says in pro stadiums, they're huge, luxurious, not nearly as loud. Mm-hmm. It does feel that way. And I've been to a loud NFL stadium, Arrowhead Stadium, which is a pretty good home field advantage. And also the Gillette Stadium where the Patriots play, big home field advantage. And in both games I went to, the home teams won. But at the same time, I've been to Florida State, right, when it's packed, and I've been to Oklahoma, obviously, and some places like that, and K-State when they were really good.
Oh yeah,
it feels different in college. It does feel like you're right on top of the field.
I think you are.
And you can noticeably tell that the road team has trouble in those situations.
When you think about these venues in college, they're old.
Right.
Most of these places are old that have been refurbished.
Yep.
And they built stadiums back in those days when they were right on top of you. You don't see a lot of brand new football stadiums in college.
No. Mm-mm.
Because they're usually built in a place on campus where that's where people have been going for 50 years.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to move the venue. Like at OU, the stadium looks brand new, but the guts of the stadium has been there since 1910.
Right.
So,
and how the bleachers sit are still the same.
Oh, yeah.
That's where the field's at. Yeah.
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 But So Now, the one that I think's the least makes the least of my what am I trying to say? Where you got the list a sport where the home advantage doesn't mean that much.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a toss up between baseball and hockey. I don't think hockey makes a huge difference.
So here's the weird thing about hockey. It should, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It
So-
should. Okay, hockey barns, you're talking about right on top of you and the crowd right next to you. I've sat in the front row of a hockey game now. I can say that. You can tell those players anything you want.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got access to them, right?
Now, they may come around there and hit you with a stick, though.
Well, now they are very intimidating figures.
Yes.
But still, and also a hockey fan is rabid as hell.
Oh, they're nuts.
We're out of our minds, you know.
They're the best.
And in hockey, you get to put, when you're at home, you get to put the players you want on the ice second, meaning you get to see all the players that the road team puts on the ice. And then you get to put whoever you want to match up with them.
Yeah.
You would think those would be huge factors. They're not. The road teams win all the time in hockey.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people that don't watch hockey, they don't realize the star players, they play about a third of the game.
Yeah.
It's a 60-minute game. They play 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
And baseball, what happens in baseball a lot of times, a pitcher controls the whole dang thing. So if the road team's pitcher is dominating the home team, they're going to win.
Right. Yeah. So baseball, it's very little a factor, and I think everybody kind of knows why.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it just is what it is. But yeah, and I don't know if these are. I'll take your word for it, there, Professor, because you are a professor. Hockey, 54% of the home teams win. NBA, it's over 60%. I believe it. You know.
Yeah.
And again, I've talked to guys that played hockey at the college level, and they're like, "Yeah, that last change that makes a huge difference when you're at home." And I always tell them, like, bullshit, it doesn't. Like, teams lose at home all the time. Like, the Blues go on the road and they'll win like 5 in a row. You know?
Yeah, they don't play well at home.
It doesn't matter, but it should.
It should.
That should be a huge advantage. But
it really is. You know, sometimes game sevens are. But you watch a lot of game sevens, the road team wins.
Yeah.
They do.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
I think again too, it's a sport where one guy can control the game, and that's the goalie.
True. Yeah.
He can win the game for you, just like the pitcher can win the game for you.
Yeah.
But you still want to play your game at home. You don't want to go on the road.
Yep.
No
By the way, that allowance race at Aqueduct we talked about this morning.
Yes.
Show what a race. The two Chad Browns hit the wire together. The two Dr. Adito with the win.
Good.
Bob was second, so Chad Brown gets the exact.
So Caput didn't get
Somich got his best bet of the day, but in this race, no, St. Tappet was
yeah
in this one. Yeah.
But that, you know, I do think in college basketball, just like today, I thought the games tonight were really hard. There was a lot of really hard games, and there was a lot of 1 point either way games. I picked the home team in every one of them tonight. It's just the way to go. Yeah.
To wrap up the question, that's a good way to wrap it up. Is when it's kind of like, oh man, I think these teams are really close. In college basketball, pick the home team.
Yeah. The way now, the other thing you can do too on college basketball, look at a road dog, somebody that's heavy favorite, not a road dog, a road favorite, somebody that's a heavy favorite on the road. For example, tonight, one of our best buddies, Dr. Tang, who hits a lot of underdogs. Mm-hmm. He loves Purdue tonight to not cover against Minnesota.
Right.
And because they're 13.5 point favorites on the road. And that's a lot. You need to look at those sometimes too. Get those ones that are one I looked at tonight, and they're secondary teams that nobody knows about, even though one of them is ranked. Florida Atlantic is number 24 team in the country. Probably nobody knows it. They're 17-1. They're like 16-point favorites tonight in San Antonio against Texas San Antonio, which is not a very good team, obviously. That's a lot of points to cover on a Thursday night game when you got to travel from Florida to San Antonio. And you're 17-1 and you're ranked. I almost took that as my best bet today.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And a lot of points, you're giving up a lot of points on the road. That's tough sometimes.
Yep. What's old Dennis got for? You got another one?
Dennis had one. We'll do this one now because we're about out of time. I still got one. We may not get to it. We'll see.
Oh yeah, we will.
Where in the hell did you ask that, Dennis? It's been too long ago now. Where is that one? Gosh. Oh man. I made a note of it. Okay, here it is, right here. Okay. So Dennis asked, what is the most successful business move that you've done with racing dudes? Or is there any point where your business stuff truly took off?
Great question.
A really good question. Kind of give you a little bit of the backstory of what happened with us. So I believe it was like 2012 it's 2012. We started, basically it was just a blog about Oaklawn more than anything else.
I thought it was sooner than that. I thought it was earlier than that.
No, I think it's 2012. It was about Oaklawn, the Kentucky Derby, Triple Crown, that kind of stuff. And we did just like writing articles for about a year. And basically what happened was I got to where like I would go to Oaklawn to see who Terry Wallace picked that day. And then I would go to the NYRA track to see who, so-and-so picked. And I was going to all these different sites to see who these people picked, not necessarily to play their picks, just to compare what I had versus what they had. And so I told Jared, I said, let's create free picks, just one pick, just one win pick for all the tracks. That was the first step to where we got to where we are now, because we were the first site where you could go get a free pick for all the tracks in one place. You didn't have to bounce around. So that kind of was our first step to popularity. The next thing we did is we built a big custom website instead of just a template. And that was the next thing that shot us up. So those were two of the big things early. And after that, just adding podcasts, adding videos to the site, just adding content was big. And the final one was COVID, honestly.
Yeah.
Everybody
that very well.
Everybody shut down sports wise. We
had you guys were in trouble. You thought you guys were in major trouble.
We had 5 tracks that stayed running, and if one of them would have shut down, I think the others would have followed. And I don't know where horse racing would be today, because the whole industry, it's not just us, got a huge bump from that. All across the industry.
I got a question for you.
Hold on, because we had thousands of new eyes on us, right? Yeah. And so we were at a point where we were ranking very well on Google for all the stuff that I'm talking about. And then when all those new eyes came, they found our site. So that helped immensely. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, and part of that too was you got new gamblers because there wasn't anything else to gamble.
100%. And so a lot of the people we meet now, when we go, to Saratoga or the Breeders' Cup, which is basically just a big meeting hub for racing fans. A lot of people say, I found you during COVID.
Exactly.
We've got the people that have known about us for a long time still, but a lot of the newer people said, some of them will say, yeah, I barely followed racing, then COVID happened, and now I'm back following it big time. Or a few have said, I never really knew what it was, and I was bored, and I like to gamble. COVID, there it goes, and I've stuck with it. So
yeah. So COVID was a tremendous break for you guys. When I remember when that all went down, you guys were thinking we're done, or we could be in big trouble.
Yeah, I didn't really think
Not
thankfully, we were really established
yes.
and we were doing
Very
doing well with the website.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, it felt like we're all going to shut down. And honestly, we had hired Magic like a month before COVID.
Oh, is that right? I thought he had been
Yeah,
around.
and our biggest worry was we got Magic. He's quit his job. He's working for us. If all these tracks shut down, how long can we pay this guy out of what we've got in our reserves before we have to let him go? And those were serious conversations because it certainly felt like day after day, we weren't going to have racing at all. And like I said, who knows what would have happened if that would have happened.
Yeah.
Thank God it didn't, and we took advantage of it. But I remember being at Will Rogers Downs the last day you could go there before they shut it off to fans. They still ran. But I was at Will Rogers Downs, and I got a press release that Keeneland shut down their meet. And I thought to myself, this will probably be the last day we run, period. Because if a horse or if a track like Keeneland is shutting down, well, there's no way Will Rogers is going to stay running, right, in Fauner Park. But they did.
Yeah. And they made a fortune because they stayed open off simulcast betting, right?
Yeah.
Will Rogers, Fauner, because people, even horse racing gamblers probably had never bet those tracks before or not much. And then suddenly that's all there was.
Mm-hmm.
You had Fauner, you had Will Rogers, Oaklawn stayed open, right? Did Gulfstream?
Gulfstream was open. Yep.
And there was like one more.
Tampa Bay.
Okay, and that was it, right? For a month, maybe?
For about maybe 2 months. Even.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Now, then Churchill came back.
Churchill came back, yeah. Charlestown came back.
Okay, so gradually, but those 5 tracks held it together.
Yeah.
And Gulfstream and Oaklawn's big enough.
Yeah.
That they had good races.
Yeah.
And kept people interested. But my question was, how valuable in you guys getting started was it getting on the backside and getting to meet people involved in the sport on the backside? And that gave you some credibility.
Probably more valuable that you could put a number on.
Wasn't that a major thing?
I think when you're just starting out and you're that green and nobody knows who you are. Like, that's the other thing. We had no background in racing at all. And I think it just kind of gave people early on that thought of, well, I mean, if whoever says, hey, I talked to the Racing News today, it kind of gave you that credibility of, well, these guys aren't just like nobodies, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it did a lot. It gave us credibility, and I think it kind of gave us an idea of how it all works. Because
that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about the industry or anything.
You got on the backside and you learned the industry part of it. You learned the nuts and bolts and guts of it.
Yeah, and we got to know people that were friendly, A, and knew what they were doing, B, and that's, as you go along, you realize that's kind of rare too. We were very lucky to get involved with who we got involved with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of time, maybe the guy's nice or gal is nice, but they don't really know what they're talking about. And you're like, you might be thinking, well, if they're on the backside, they know what they're talking about. Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily.
Right.
And,
to be successful in anything you do, you got to have a little bit of luck, and you got to take that luck, and make it work.
Well, that was the deal. We got, and it's odd to say, and Dennis says we need COVID 2.0, and we do for racing purposes. But COVID happened, but we were ready for that influx of people because we had built the back end of our site and how we operate well enough that we were ready for an influx of people. Sometimes you might get that influx of people, but you can't handle them, because you're not, the back end isn't really ready for it. So it really, and we didn't really do the free picks thing thinking that it would be that successful, but it happened. It just happened, So that was kind of the luck. We had an idea, and then we got lucky that people really liked that idea. And sometimes you have an idea, and you might think it's good, and people don't like it. And we've done that too. We've made a lot of mistakes too. So that's just how it goes.
Well, you got to have breaks along the way.
Yeah.
In anything, you got to take that lucky thing and then use it, and then you got to have the right people working for you that are all in it together. And luckily, and that'd be a story we need to get into one of these days. How you've met these people and you've hired them, and some of them you've never met personally, and how these guys evolved. We've all just meshed together into one big happy family, as far as I know.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's another thing I should have mentioned, and sometimes I forget. Getting Magic on board was massive, right? You have to, when any business you do, any venture you do, you have to realize the points where you have weaknesses. Like, I was writing the articles and editing the articles, and that's not something I don't need to be editing anything. Like, I'm not that great with grammar, and honestly, I'm a lot better at it now because of Magic. But having him made the site look more professional, and then having a guy like Somich, I mean, I don't.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I have to explain that. That is
yeah.
For him to be interested in coming on board is huge. Yeah.
But the point I was trying to make too, not only are these guys fantastic at what they do, they're nice people. They're good people, and they're easy to get along with. And that's
we've been lucky. We never have to worry about them not doing what they're supposed to do.
No, and that's a credit to them. And
I don't manage Magic, right? Like,
you don't have to.
No, he knows what he's supposed to do, and he does it. And same with Somich. I don't ever text Somich and say, "Hey, why didn't you do this?"
No, they're dependable. They're dependable, and that's what you want. And that's rare in these days. So I know when we bought the sporting goods business that we had and was very successful and still is, we got lucky in the fact that when we bought it, we didn't know anything about it really.
Yeah.
But we had the right products in the store. We had Nike.
Mm-hmm.
We had Reebok. We had Louisville Slugger. We had other brands that are nationally known. They were there.
Yeah, you were set up to succeed.
We were set up to succeed with the right people that would go in there. So the lucky part was, just because we bought the store didn't mean we were going to keep Nike.
Right.
We had to go interview with the salesman from this territory. If he didn't like us, we didn't get it. Well, we didn't know that was such a big deal at the time. Right. But our personality was good enough that he liked us.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day when we came down and talked, and I was just myself. I didn't know a damn thing.
Yeah.
But he sat right there and said, "You're going to have to do what I tell you, whether you like it or not." Well, when somebody of that stature tells you that, by God, you do it. You don't go, because I bought shoes. I thought those are the ugliest shoes I ever saw. But he said, "That's what you got. Those are going to sell," and they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you take that and then Jordan just boomed. I mean, he was big, but then it just went nuts.
Yeah.
He was with Nike, and we had Nike. So, and then the other thing we did, we pretty much made it a Nike store. We turned it into Little Nike Town is what we did. If you've ever been to one, that's what our store was. It was full of Nike. And then the other smart thing we did, everything in that store, Nike, was 20% off. We didn't make as much money on it, but we sold a hell of a lot more of it. And those are little things that you take the luck of having the product and then you use it to your advantage. And that's kind of what you do. And if you're successful, those things work. So,
yeah, so exactly. But again, I guess the end all be all is know where you don't know and listen to people that do know and have been successful in those areas. And you're right. I mean,
the other thing about you guys that's so good is you're not controversial. And you can't be.
No.
You're not big enough to be controversial. You're not ESPN.
Yeah.
you're not TVG, whatever other stuff there is. So you stay away from that. You voice your opinion, but it's not a fighting opinion. You're not trying to fight somebody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's very good.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the way we look at that, we're here to give picks, right?
Yeah.
And so what does that have to do with anything else?
Absolutely.
So, Curtis says, hope to run into dudes at Keeneland or the Derby. I think either one's very possible for sure. I think we'll be there Bluegrass Day at Keeneland.
So where's Curtis at? Where's he live?
I'm guessing you're in Kentucky if you're going Keeneland or Derby. But I don't know for sure where the great Curtis is located. But if you're at the Derby, you could also meet Dennis. I would imagine Dennis will be at the Derby.
Yeah.
As well. Car Ramrod says free picks brought me to the site, and that's a lot of people because, like I said, the site does rank very well. And then Magic Mike, blinkers off, and now you're looking at the content, and that's the biggest thing. At first, we had free picks, and then it's like, okay, people are coming, but what more can we offer people? And so that's what brought blinkers off was first, then Magic Mike came along, and now this YouTube stuff has blown up, and we really like doing that kind of stuff as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just short little videos.
This part's fun. And I don't think a lot of people realize how much work we all do, how much we all do. It's not that we're overworked by any stretch of the imagination, or I'm not. You are, but I'm not. But how much we all contribute to make it work behind the scenes,
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for sure. You got to have a lot of hands, and at first it was when you're small, you do it yourself, and then you realize, well, I can't do all that, So and again, you realize you got a guy like Somich who wants to Dennis, you do a bunch of tracks. It's a lot of work, but you got guys like Somich and Magic that want to help and Slim to some degree, and even like a Dr. Miranda or a Vinny, same thing,
Mm-hmm.
And you realize, well, they can provide something that I can't, and that people will want to see. So that's in a nutshell.
I don't know about other sites. I don't know, but I've always told people this: when we make a pick, we mean it. We're not just picking something just to be picking something. I get pissed when I miss them.
Yeah. Well,
even if I don't even bet anything on it, I get so damn mad. Yeah. Because I don't want to let people down. I don't want to do that. When I say I think this is the way it's going to go, I truly mean that. I take it personal.
Right. Yeah.
And I know you do too.
We should post sometimes our group messages when we're watching bets that we've made and we've given out, how mad we get. Yeah. By the way, you like Dr. Tang, right?
Love him.
Well, let's give him a big time shout out. Dr. Tang just hit the pick 5 at Gulfstream for $1 for a payout of $26,500.
Okay, I'm starting to like him less. Don't text me tonight, Dr. Tang. I don't want to hear it. This guy is the nicest. Here's another thing.
He's so excited. He's texting me like 100 miles an hour.
I can't believe he hasn't texted me, but I'm kind of hurt. But here's a guy who texts me all the time. Never seen him. Yeah. You have. I haven't.
Yeah.
But like we're just jabbering away, texting each other, and that's the amazing thing about this whole thing. So
and that's the greatest thing about there he is. That's the greatest thing about this whole thing that started is meeting people like Doc, and he's just one of many. Dennis, my goodness, like we've met so many nice people.
Oh, Dennis is a great guy.
Yeah, and it's all through racing. Never met him, but yes, yeah. Doc. Wow, that's great. That's great.
That is fantastic.
His horse turned for home and had about a 6-length lead. And boy, they were starting to come at him late. But if you're watching this race, you don't have 20,000 on the line. It's not that big a deal. You weren't too worried, but I'm sure he was worried a little bit. Just awesome hit.
It is.
Great job.
And he really is a doctor, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Oh man. All right. Let's see.
That's pretty good stuff.
He said he hit the carryover pick 5 last night. Nice. First time I've ever hit anything at that place, and might be the last. Hey,
good place to stop.
hey, I tell you what, that was not easy to hit. You should be very proud of yourself. That was awesome. Very awesome. Great job. I don't know off the top of hand what that one paid. I think it's pretty decent though. So great job. Great job.
You mean they hit pick 5s and they pay, like when we hit pick 4s, they don't pay?
At Remington, they don't pay.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing about Doc, yesterday I hit the pick 5 at Gulfstream when it paid $400, and now he's hitting it today when it's paying whatever 26, whatever I just said. So yeah. Way to go.
Yeah.
He said, yes, that race was nice to get out before the patients come.
Well, that is good because you should be in a very good mood the rest of the day.
That's what I love about the doc. He's checking in between patients.
Yeah, I don't know what that tells about what he's thinking when the patient comes in, but anyway, that's all right.
Everyone says around 3K. So
that's pretty good. Yes, that's not bad.
Very good. Yeah.
Well,
congratulations, Dr. Tang. No, I'm kidding. That's great.
Yeah, fantastic.
I knew beforehand what he had because he texted me, and I was like, "Oh, come on!" But he had a 2.78 there in the last, and the 8.7 ran 1.2. So no worries there whatsoever.
No.
Anyway, all right. Anything else?
I don't have anything. I think we've managed to make 4 football games last an hour and 16 minutes. That's pretty good.
It's good to know that the doctor, you're right about that. Yeah, we have a long show. I didn't think we'd have one, but the doctor says whether the horse comes in first or last, the cancer patients get first-rate care. So that's how he became the number 1 cancer doctor in Los Angeles.
Well, and here's the thing, Dr. Tang. We all at the Racing Dudes, I don't know that we've told you this or not, but we're expecting, if heaven forbid that ever happens to any of us,
yes,
you're going to take us as a patient.
That's right. That's why we're nice to you. Magic's already burned that bridge, but
oh, he did.
Yeah, Magic's not nice.
Well, okay, we're not Magic.
That's right.
That's funny.
All right, we're getting out of here, guys.
Yeah, we are.
Good luck. Speaking of Magic, if you want to watch his dumbass, 43 minutes. 43 minutes until the Magic Mike show. And Dr. Tane, I heard the news will break today on the Magic Mike show. The big news is going to break, Dr. Tane. Go make sure to check in on that.
And I hope I never see you in the office either.
All right, we're going to get out of here, guys. We will see you back here on Monday. Have a good one, guys.
This is Dudes Who Bet Sports. Dudes Who Bet Sports, it's your favorite show. Dudes Who Bet Sports, where degenerates go. Dudes Who Bet Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Halterman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.